parish president, I'm going to ask all of our elected officials to stand so we can recognize them and thank them for their service. If you guys wouldn't mind to do that one more time. I literally just left Dale early, and I want to thank you for the senators and the representatives you sent to work with us in Baton Rouge as well. I want to congratulate the students today. I want to thank the businesses for sponsoring these scholarships, because let's remember, that's why we're really here. I want to share with you just a little bit about what's happened in our state the last year, and then where do we go from here. You know, I like to tell people the good news is some of the bad news is wrong. If all you did was read the national news and listen to the national news, you hear about bank crises and unemployment rates and the national economy. We're not immune to the national economy here in Louisiana. But the good news is we've outperformed the national economy for 12 months in a row. We've outperformed the southern economy for 12 months in a row. Indeed, you hear about the banking crisis across the country. 96% of Louisiana's banks are in the top 2 regulatory categories. You hear about the loss of jobs across the country. Louisiana is one of the 10 lowest unemployment rates in the country. You hear about the real estate crisis. National Association of Home Builders, PMI, and others have looked at our real estate markets and said we're not going to see the same kinds of declines in value you're seeing in California, Florida, Arizona, and other states. You look at out-migration. For 2 years in a row, more people have moved into Louisiana faster than they moved out. Indeed, in December, we were the only state in the country that added jobs. In January, only state in the country, the unemployment rate went down, not up. February, the only state in the country that added jobs. January, February, and March. More people were working in Louisiana than any January, February, or March in our state's history. So part of the good news is that a lot of bad news is wrong. Now that doesn't mean we're immune to the national economy. It does mean we've outperformed it. And I want to share with you today why that's so, but then also tell you what we need to do to continue moving the state forward. Now, here in this parish, you saw Versus move their headquarters from Rhode Island here. You saw Seco expand their operations here. You've seen many good developments right here in Livingston Parish, right here in Louisiana. But let me start with 3 big steps we took last year that I believe have helped us to add jobs even while the country is losing jobs. And it seems hard for me to believe that it's been over a year since I've been your governor. But it was such a privilege to take that oath of office. And one of the things I promised you on the steps of the Capitol back in January of last year was that we would create a new Louisiana. A Louisiana where we stopped exporting our greatest assets. Our greatest exports, it's not the oil, the gas we're drilling, it's not the products we're making, it's not even the crops or the wood that we grow. Our greatest exports for too long have been the sons and daughters of Louisiana. They've been leaving Louisiana year after year for several years now, looking for academic and economic opportunities in other states. I promise you we create a new Louisiana so they can pursue their dreams here. I promise you we create a new Louisiana so we bring back the risk takers, the entrepreneurs, and others. You know, I'd love to tell you that day that everybody was paying attention to my speech when I said that. But I've got 3 young children. I know better than that. At the time, the oldest was about 6. My 2 boys were 3 and 1. You know how tough it is to get your kids to behave when you go to church or a restaurant? You imagine when you're on the steps of the Capitol in front of thousands of people? My kids know I can't spank them in front of all those people. They weren't listening to Daddy's speech. They were running all over the Capitol. They were doing everything but sitting still. But you know, there was something that got their attention. I was done speaking at noon. And right at noon, there's a man named Deacon John that got up to sing God Bless America. I can't sing to save my life. The Bible talks about making a joyful noise for the Lord. I can do that. But I can't sing. Now this man, he could sing. He got up, he sang God Bless America. And as he was singing those high notes, it gives me goosebumps to think about it. Out of nowhere, these F-15 planes flew over the state capitol even as he was singing. You couldn't have timed it better. It was like out of a movie. My little 3-year-old boy, he didn't hear anything Daddy had said. But he saw those planes. His head was up in the sky, his eyes, mouth were wide open. Stood there just for minutes watching what the planes did. Finally, they said the benediction. I said, Sean, son, come on, it's time to go. It's done. We gotta go. He finally moved. The first thing he says, Dad, make them do it again. Son, I can't do that. So instead, he comes to my office on the 4th floor. The first time there, he's got his head stuck to the window, just staring at the sky. I said, Son, come eat lunch. What are you doing over there? He said, Dad, when do you think those planes will come back? I said, son, if you behave, they'll come back. They'll come back in 4 years. But you know, that day, I promise you, we have to start by waging war on corruption and incompetence. Why do we start that? Why do we start that? Well, you listen to Forrest. You listen to LSU. They did surveys. They said the number one thing we could do to attract business to our state was to crack down on corruption. We've all heard the jokes. Now, Billy Tozan famously said our state was half underwater, half under indictment at any given moment in time. The problem was those jokes were still opportunities from our children. As long as people think who you know is more important than what you know, they don't want to invest in this state. Companies would tell us that all the time. And so we started with a special session in our first 30 days, dozens of bills. Passed a bill requiring disclosure of income, assets, liabilities for elected and appointed officials. Hundreds of members resigned from boards across the state. The media asked me, was I worried? I said no. I hope more of them resign because there are thousands of Louisianians that want to serve their state. That's nothing to hide. Passed a second bill, requiring the lobbyists to disclose what they're spending in Baton Rouge. Passed a third bill. We said, if you're going to be an elected official, you can't do business with the state. Make sure you're working for us, not yourselves. Passed the fourth bill. We now are one of the only states in the country that puts our spending online. But in addition to that, we're the only state that links it to performance outcome indicators. Passed another bill creating the Office of Inspector General in statute. Actually giving subpoena power to the office. Also, the one in Baton Rouge, also the one in New Orleans and other communities. Passed a bill closing the loopholes of the gift bans on expensive meals on sports teams. For decades, the governor's had a box at Tiger Stadium. We became the first governor to give it back. Now, my brother still won't talk to me. He says, y'all went too far with that. So now it's the right thing to do. You may ask, has it made a difference? Center for Public Integrity used to give us 43 out of 100 points for disclosure. Now they give us 99 out of 100 points for legislative disclosure. Better Government Association used to rank us bottom 5 on their integrity index. Now we're in the top 5. Maybe you read some of the editorials that said this may have been the most comprehensive ethics reform ever tried in the history of any state. But you know what's the most important thing? Is we're beginning to restore people's trust in their government. And most important thing, I'll tell you that CEO of Tidewater called me even before the session, even before that started, to say, Governor, we've been thinking about moving to Houston. We've decided to stay in Louisiana because we want to be a part of the new Louisiana. We're keeping our headquarters here. And that's what we need to continue to do to build this new Louisiana. To show our people and show this country this is a different state. I met with the CEO of a large company called Gardner Denton. They were thinking about moving their operations. They have a facility in Monroe, Louisiana. They have a much larger facility in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. They've got about 70 employees down here. They've got hundreds of employees up there. They started a project called MTS. That was the nickname of the project. It was called Monroe Sheboygan. They basically decided internally it would probably make sense to close this facility and move those employees there. By the time I met with the CEO, though, we had showed him how Louisiana was changing. They eventually decided instead to move hundreds of employees from Wisconsin here, hundreds of jobs from Wisconsin to Monroe. And he said, Governor, we didn't expect to stay here or to grow here. We're going to almost quadruple our size in your state because we believe this is a new state and we want to be a part of it. But that was just the first step.